Hey, welcome back into War Stories. I'm Karmen Payne, and I wanted to kind of continue going down the same little vein that we've been heading down with parenting for our last podcast. Um, I have a unique perspective on parenting. Um, I have parented three adults. Mostly by myself. Their dad left when they were like 6, 7, and 2, somewhere around in there. And that was a challenge. It was a real challenge to be a single mom. And I had some encounters along the way that maybe you might find a little shocking, maybe, I don't know. We always laugh and give them names like the awkward family Christmas or the gunslingers family Christmas or this or that, because I had to do some pushback against things that weren't good for us as a family. I made decisions that were poor, and I had to go back and face it and correct it. I made decisions that were good, that set us up for success. But I want to help you understand that parenting is a journey. We started out of Proverbs 22, verse 6, last podcast, and we were talking about shanaching, or training up a child in the way that they should go. And I was thinking about when my son Nicholas announced that he was quitting college. And he had played his first year in football at Huntington, and he had left there and gone to Troy. And he was at Troy, and then he decided he didn't want to stay at Troy. He got involved in working and earning some money and doing some. He ended up in the middle of an incident that exposed him to what it could be like to be a volunteer firefighter. And so he wanted to try that. And God and I were in a tug of war at the time, because I'd been a nurse administrator for a long time. And I was, tired of it, to be frank. And I knew I didn't want to spend the rest of my life as a nurse administrator. I worked about 80 hours a week. By the time I got my paycheck, I was paying them to go, I think. And the Lord called me to finish my degree and go back to graduate school. And I was like, now's not a good time. I still have a kid in college. And he asked me to consider that he knew what he was doing. If you look at Proverbs chapter 3, it talks about the wisdom of really learning to hear God's voice and know, because he will direct our paths. So we're directing our children while he is directing us. See how that works? It's awesome. Well, he was directing Nicholas because as he became a fireman, he got his education from Alabama Fire College through a couple of employers. And then he went to police academy, and he was educated as a law enforcement officer through his employers. And then he continued going to college. Just different than I'd wanted it to look like the traditional, go stay 4 years, graduate thing. That wasn't who he was. That had worked out great for his sister, the middle child, but the oldest and the youngest were both non-traditional learners. Miss Carmen, I don't care what your kids did. I get it. I really do. It's okay. But what I'm trying to tell you is that when you're training up a child in the way that he should go, sometimes you have to learn to release control. Because I remember I was thinking about standing on the porch yelling at him. He was on the sidewalk in front of the house, and I was so mad at him for wanting to quit college. It was so important to me that he finished college. Like, you're making me feel like I'm failing you because you're not finishing college. And the Lord's like, who's in charge here? Me or you? And I'm like, well, sure, it's you, but this can't be your plan. Can't it? He said. sometimes what you are holding on to, you have to let go of. I'm going to use another example. What if you have a child born with special needs? It's a shock and it's painful, and sometimes you just have to take a deep breath and say, okay. But I've been working with a lady who has a special needs child, and I've been working for some education for her to be documented. And as I looked and searched, I couldn't find what I needed to give her to walk through her recovery journey and talk about the needs of special needs kids. And I have a grandson who is autistic. He's going to run over and say hi to y'all while I'm on this podcast, because he is very verbal, very intense, very interested. But you're not like everybody, are you, Zeke? Come on over. Come on over toward me till you can see. There you are. See, there you are. You want to tell everybody hello?
Hello.
All right, now you can go sit down. Thank you.
See you later, D-Mom.
See you later, kiddo. Everyone who is autistic isn't nonverbal. Everyone who is diagnosed with this or that isn't limited specifically. You got to get to know your child's needs. So a lot of the journey of parenting is setting aside your own idols. It has to be this way, and allowing yourself to experience life with your child specifically, to know what they need, to know how they feel, to know how they think. For example, if I give him complex math problems, he loves to sit down. He will do that for fun, okay? But if I tell him he has to write 20 sentences, I've just ruined his whole entire month. Like 20 sentences. Every child is not the same. Every diagnosis is not the same. Don't limit your child based on what medical professionals tell you. Get to know your child, meet their needs, find the therapist that works for them. For us, with him, it was ABA therapy. He excelled at ABA. He loved it, and he did great with it. But every child is not the same. So find the groove that works for you and work that. And if something stops working, change. Keep trying. Keep going. Shinak, to initiate, is to begin with the flexibility. Pastor Lane Schranz, when I was in Highlands College, said, if you hold your hand flat, no matter what God puts in it or takes out of it, you won't be wounded or injured. But if you hold it with a tight grip, it's going to end up hurting you. And that's true with your children. Because as much as I had dreams, and I felt like I'd sacrificed a lot to see those dreams come true. I'd been the ballpark mom. I'd been gymnastics mom. I'd taken them. I'd done all the things. I'd paid all the bills. I wasn't the one that created them. God was, and He had specific designs for them. The pain and the difficulty of mothering is sometimes accepting you don't get to control the outcome. And I'm bringing that up because a lot of moms are really busy. A lot of dads are really busy. And they don't sit down maybe in enough quiet space to find out what's really driving the emotion behind what's going on in their home. If you have expectations that aren't met, it can cause anger or resentment or tension that could poison the environment in your home, and you don't even really realize it. I know for a fact that the enemy was plotting disappointment between Nicholas and I so that I would lose influence with him, because I wanted him to finish college before he went into the workforce, because I knew once he got money in his pocket and started standing on his own 2 feet as a man, there wouldn't be, much chance of going back. However, God had plans for Nicholas that he didn't ask me about. And I had to learn to be okay with that. Are you okay with it? Are you emotionally manipulating or controlling your child's future and not going to the Father about it? Are you open to God correcting your thoughts and your desires for them and letting Him lead? We know the workforce is dying for well-trained carpenters, brick masons, electricians, people who are sober and do heating and air. There's all kinds of things out there that need to be happening. And yet we've, as a society, developed some sort of thought in our mind that if it's not comes with a bachelor's degree, it's not good enough. Be very careful the pressure you put on your child. Social media, gaming, music, all of those things are pressuring them to look a certain way and act a certain way and think a certain way. Add to that, well, my mom says I have to do X, Y, or Z. And where is there time for God's influence in that? Make space in your relationship with your child to be a God influencer. There are lots of devotionals out there on the Bible app, and I'm for that. But there's nothing like taking space and just listening to the Bible, reading a physical paper, archaic Bible, worship music in your home, a time of waking them up in a peaceful environment. If you read The Connected Child by Dr. Karen Purvis, it's used in training foster parents for the Alabama Baptist foster parent training courses. But she says that somewhere there are children that wake up at a 0 stress level, but the majority of kids wake up somewhere close to a max out of 8, and they're around a 6. So look to create a different kind of environment in your home so the Holy Spirit can begin to speak early. I don't think the devil has to come at our kids with pornography and drugs and alcohol. I think chaos and disorder can make them turn a hard heart to the church because we're taking them to church and screaming and fighting to the church door because everybody has to look a certain way. No, they don't. It's going to be okay. I promise you, I've taught in kids' environments for years at Highlands. If you get them there, I will teach them even if they don't have shoes on. I've done it. We have a free-range kid that shoes are just not his love language. So I taught him shoeless. It's fine. He's good. And I still love him and he still loves me. Please, Mom. Please, Dad. Quit putting so much pressure on the things that won't matter when the day is finished. Download Adventures in Odyssey and listen going down the road. Entertain some questions, maybe, and turn off your favorite podcast. Listen to the things that children need to hear and maybe restore a little innocence to your own heart. Parenting is a hard job, and you've got to have those foundational knock it out of the park has to happen moments. Yes, everybody has to bathe most days. Teeth have to be brushed every day. We like fresh underwear every day. We prefer not to eat in the bed because nobody wants bugs. Things have to be straightened up. But you know what doesn't have to happen? You do not have to raise a perfect child because there are none. Let me just take that pressure off of you and let you live to understand that these moments that you create with them, when I ask my adult children the things that they remember, it staggers me at how simple they are. I say, do you remember when we went on this trip or that trip? And they're like, no, I don't remember that. But you know what? I remember when we used to ride the bicycles around the neighborhood. Okay. I I really majored on the wrong things a lot of the time. And I really hope that you choose to consider, where is the enemy getting in your house? Is he getting in through busyness? Is he showing up through expectations that are unrealistic or unwise? What if your son's not meant to be a quarterback? My son, I still have this picture of him catching the only pass he ever caught for a touchdown. You want to know why? He's 6'4". He wears like a 14 in a shoe. I said, baby, you're going to have to accept the fact that you're a lineman. Okay? That's what you are. That's the way it's going to be. But somehow he made that one opportunity against Curry pay off, and he has it framed because it was important to him. But you know what? I didn't pressure him to become a quarterback or a running back. I just wanted him to go out and have fun playing ball. So the humor is, his little boy is now 5, and the other day we were talking, and he said, gee, Mom, my dad had to go to college to get 1 ring, and I play baseball, and I'm 5 and I have 2. Kids will humble you quick. I think it's hysterical, the things they'll come up with. Well, I'm outside with this little boy, 2nd generation, and he's hitting a busted tennis ball and knocking it out of the park and running around the house. But I'm now old enough to know that the moments I create that they remember won't be the big flashy ones. They'll be the simple, organic ones that happen moment by moment and day by day. And I spend time with Ezekiel one way, and I spend time with Kenny one way, and I spend time with Asher a different way. And there are 9 of them now. There are 9 children that I have to find a way to connect with each of their hearts individually. And so do you. Because look, the ultimate deception is for the enemy to use you to make their heart hard toward God. Don't do it. Don't do it. They don't have to have perfect pigtails. They don't have to match. Everything doesn't have to work perfectly. It doesn't matter. What matters is that they get the word in them and they see you exhibiting the fruits of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, meekness, self-control, against which there is no law. If what they're seeing is obscenity and rage and anger and jealousy and negative talking about everybody else at the ballpark when you get in the car on the way home, it's sort of self-defeating. Kids will never do what you tell them to do. They will always do what they see you doing. I'm going to say it again for the children in the back. Kids will never do what you tell them to do. They will do what they see you doing. We live life sort of weird at my house because the nonprofit is next door. So if someone shows up and they don't have food, we go to our cabinet and we clean it out and we make them a food box and we send the children out the door with us. We don't filter the kids seeing people who are hungry or who need toilet paper or who need bath supplies or whatever. We want the children to understand that there are people in this world who have needs, and it is our responsibility as believers to meet those needs when we can, because that's what the Bible says we should do. To him who knoweth to do good and doeth it not, However, those moments come and go. How I act every day on a regular basis, and I'm convicted by this as much as anyone. Please don't think I have it. I don't. But how I act every day when they interrupt me, when they want something and I've got other plans for myself, when someone decides college isn't for them and I think they should go, those are the moments that scream about my character. I often give people sponges. Because whatever you soak a sponge in comes out under pressure. We can know if it's in perfume, if it's in kerosene, or if it's in soapy water real quick. Just put pressure on it, see what pops out. The same is true of us as humans. Jesus more eloquently said, out of the heart flow the issues of life. And you can't get both bitter and sweet water out of a well, right? Well, in redneck Blount County language, if you soak a sponge in sour water and you try to wash something with it, you've just made it dirty. Let's keep our hearts clean, parents, so we have clean, pure water to wash our kids with. We can speak kind words, gentle words, even corrective words can be spoken the right way. I have to practice what I preach, and a lot of times I can feel myself about to lose my temper, and I have to walk away and think of a better way to say what I'm about to say. My great nephew will walk up to the fence after he bats, and he'll say, "Did you see me?" And I realize I don't see very well, so that's new to him. But very quickly, when I hear him ask that question, I assure him he did wonderfully, amazingly, because I want him to know he matters. What are we doing with our words? What are we doing with our attitudes? What are we doing to nurture life in our homes? Another proverb says the issues of life, both life and death, flow out of the tongue. So I'm encouraging you today to use your tongue in a way that would encourage life in your children, peace in your home, the attitude that Jesus would have us have toward them, that they're treasure, they're not a bother. One of the things that shocks me at the Love Lady Center is when women tell me, nobody's ever asked me what I thought or how I felt about something, Miss Karmen. And I've got to learn to ask my kids, how'd you feel about today? Did today go well? Was it meh? Or did you not like it at all? It helps when you find out what the atmosphere they've been in is and how you can make it better. That's our job as parents. Shannock with them. Take the journey. I promise you won't regret it. If you need help, reach out to us here at info@BGTV, or you can call me at 205-218-9821. Thanks so much and have a great day.